Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast. I'm your host, Christian Harris, and my guest today is Clive Johnson. Clive is currently the Director or Head of Health and Safety for Derwent London, but as we'll hear, he's had a rich and varied career in a number of really large organisations dealing with this huge topic of safety and risk. Clive's someone I've known for a number of years and have supported in part of his journey, only a very small part considering everything else he's done. Somebody I really admire and I think will bring a huge amount of value to today's conversation. We touch on Clive's journey, some of the learnings that he's had over the years, his spirit of collaboration and working together in partnership and why that's really important to him. Some of his successes around mental health with the Mates in Mind scheme, which he helped to set up about 5 years ago. And we also talk about risk versus safety and how Clive sees that conversation. So talking about safety being a key part of business risk. And Clive's currently the president of the IIRSM, which is a association all around risk and safety management. So he's got a really interesting perspective on that. So I'm confident that you'll get a lot out of this one and find it useful. If you do, I'd really appreciate if you could give us a 5-star review if we're worth it, and hit subscribe. And also, tell anyone else that you might know about the show that will benefit from it. Doing those things would really help to get us in front of more people, which is really helping us on our mission of making the world safer, cleaner, and a more successful place for us all to live and work in. So let's get into it and join my conversation now with Clive Johnson. Clive Johnson, welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast.
Thank you, and good morning to you.
Yeah, same to you. Nice to catch up. I know we have been talking a bit, but it's good to good to catch up with a bit more depth and to talk about some other more interesting things than well, not more interesting, but broader things, and get to know more about you. So
happy to accommodate.
All good. So how does it feel, Clive, to have been and I'm sure you'll be modest about this, but pretty instrumental in the Mates in Mind movement, which has kind of saved a lot of lives from people in the construction industry. That must be a great feeling and a great achievement.
Yeah, I think if anybody asks me some of the things I'm proud of in my life, that'll certainly be one of them. And the group of people that I work with to start us on that journey to have a Mates in Mind program now, which sort of raises awareness, addresses that stigma of sort of poor mental health and seeks to improve positive mental well-being, and throughout not just construction workplaces, but workplaces generally, and it was just a moment in my life where I was sat in a sort of cognac meeting with the HSE, and a lady called Dr. Leslie Rushton announced not only the sort of safety related deaths in the construction sector, but she focused on the health related deaths. And that moment in time, I felt totally, I've probably been a safety practitioner all these years and not a health and safety practitioner. And it was a bit of a wake-up call for Clive to realise that I'm in probably a good position where I could do something about it. So along with several of my colleagues, we got together a very small group, and there we started the Health and Construction Leadership Group. And one of the outputs of that, as you alluded to earlier, was the launch of the Mates in Mind programme, because we were sort of focusing on the fact that there's 2 people a day committing suicide in construction. It's just unacceptable. And if we could do something together as a group and raise the profile, and I think we did it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think we did it. We did do it.
Yeah, you did. No, absolutely. Yeah.
And, we sort of started on the journey back in 2016, and to where we are now. The Mates in Mind charity now set up on it's running itself, and there's several hundred companies now signed up to it, and particularly for myself at Derwent London, we're a supporter of it.
Yeah.
So what that means in sort of real money is the fact that all the principal contractors that we employ to build our projects, we encourage and get them to sign up to the Mates in Mind program for all our construction work. So,
Yeah.
you know, we've got an opportunity as a client to do that, you know, so, but yeah, I mean, it's moved on significantly now, and it's got a real team around it, and it's driving the agenda, but it's still a long way to go, Christian, you know, and and the more, you know, things like this, we can sort of keep raising its profile and keep banging the drum about it. And it's even become more important because of, you know, what's happened over the last year, you know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, with stresses and strains that, you know, the construction workers have been under, you know, so it's something to look at.
I mean, we're here in lockdown 3, aren't we, recording this? And all of the data around mental health, that I've seen anyway, has shown that, you know, there's been a huge spike in this latter period compared to last year, I think, because people are, I guess there's a bit of exhaustion, isn't there, around the whole COVID thing.
I mean, I think Mates in Mind did a bit of a survey a while ago, and I think it was 97% of construction workers felt stressed at least once in the last year, and there's 26% have considered sort of taking their own lives, and this was like 2019, 2020, and you know, and then that's all been exaggerated with COVID, you know, and you know, the self-employed people, they're not getting money's coming in, and you know, so the financial bits a massive trigger around, you know, people's mental health. It's they're getting paid. So, you know, for me, going back to your original question, yes, I'm really proud of what I've done with it, but there's a great team on board now to continue its momentum. And I was on a call last week with the HCLG, and because of what the HSE are doing now, along with the Construction Leadership Council, there's more collaboration, and without duplicating efforts, a lot of the health-related works that we've been doing in Health and Construction Leadership Group, we're now working in collaboration with one of the HSE's working groups around eradicating ill health group, you know, so along with respiratory, the mental health bits, it's in there as well. So there's still lots of work being done, but I think it's going to be done more collaborative now going forward.
Yeah. And collaboration was one of the topics I wanted to talk to you about, actually. So let's skip forward to that, because because, you know, the work that we've done, you know, over the years together has all been based around, from what I can see, you know, you wanting to work collaboratively, wanting to set up platforms for people to help one another and push agendas on and make an impact. So talk to us a bit about your kind of philosophy around that.
I mean, it started many years ago, really, and it started when I was sort of health and safety leader with BAA, when they were building the Terminal 5 project. And, you know, I've used the word many times, and lots of other people do use the word, you know, the client, i.e. BAA, was in a real, you know, privileged position at the head of the food chain, supply chain, to set the tone for the project. And I'll always hark back to BAA, because I believe they sort of broke the mold in terms of collaboration with its supply chain, and how it set up its sort of relationships with all its principal contractors and its, you know, additional sort of external professional bodies that really help drive that change. And sort of from that, my sort of jobs I've had from then, I've just really built on what BAA did for me, that collaboration, because, you know, the more relationships you build, the more you can accomplish, in my book, and that is key to, you know, any from a health and safety risk perspective. I think that's key to any business, to have really strong relationships with people, and have that sort of honest and open, trustworthy sort of relationship, really.
Yeah, even you know, entrepreneurship. There's a guy I follow called Daniel Priestley, and he talks about entrepreneurship being a team sport. So it's not just about you as a business owner, even if you're setting up on your own.
No. And, you know, and then I went from sort of the BAA world, then I went into Asda Walmart, which is a sort of a different, albeit a big construction element to it. From a retail perspective, you know, your customer, that relationship was key. And in a world of health and safety where, you know, it probably still carries the same stigma as what mental health does. You know, you mentioned health and safety to lots of people, and it turns them off, doesn't it? You know, so it's around creating those relationships and having that dialogue, that you're there as a, you know, an enabler and not a blocker to make health and safety more inclusive into business risk and business operations. And that's what I've tried to do, you know, from my last sort of 3 jobs from BAA to ASDA to Landsec to where I am now at Derwent London.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
key, absolutely key.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but before I forget, just tell us a little bit about Derwent London and the business and your role there.
Well, I left Landsec after sort of eight years plus, and I was planning to sort of retire and put my feet up, and I had sort of 11 months off, and I was very fortunate to sort of get engaged with conversation with Derwent, and as a result of a couple of chats over the phone and popping down to London to see Derwent. I mean, I've known of Derwent London for many years, and I met with the directors and the CEO, and it was a bit of a no-brainer for Clive really to come back into the working world because of who Derwent are, what they do, how they do it. They're a smaller company than companies I've worked for in the past, but yes, they're a PLC, top 250 PLC company, but they've still got a very family-orientated way that they work, and that really appealed to Clive in terms of what they did and how they did it. And they've got a real passion to integrate health and safety into their business model. And I've been given a great opportunity in Derwent to come in and work with the business to embed that sort of culture across the business, and unlike many of the other companies I've worked for, Derwent is just based in the sort of central London, based over several, we call them villages, from Fitzrovia to Victoria to Soho, Covent Garden. So the portfolio is quite condensed in a way.
Yeah.
So it's really quite nice it's a manageable space, and you can walk to most of the buildings from the head office in Savile Row.
It's a bit of a walk from your house though.
It's a bit of a walk, yeah. I still got that commute, which, and I've been doing it for like 9 years now plus, but it's an hour and 25 minutes from sort of South Yorkshire to King's Cross, and people might say, well, how do you manage to do that? But for me, it becomes part of my working day, and you get things done on the train going down. So when you get into the office and you have a brew, lots of things you've done, you fire them off. You can have a sort of 30 minutes or so when you get in, but more importantly, that sort of 90 minutes after you finish work, coming home on the train, you've got time to sort of wind down a little bit. And then before you get home to senior management, you're in a different place. I'm not saying I have any bad days at work, I probably don't, but it gives you that time just to switch off a bit more. And it sort of works for me, that commute.
Yeah. And I guess you're not doing that. Well, the last time we spoke, it's not like you're doing that every day. You're kind of
no, not at all, no. And I think, I think one of the outcomes of COVID, if there is a positive from a workplace perspective, I think a lot of people will be working a lot more agile and adapting to that remote working more than they ever did, I think, really.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it's going to vary by sector, isn't it? I saw something in the news the other day from Goldman Sachs saying basically, we still see the office being fundamental, because in that kind of job you need to have that kind of apprenticeship, practical apprenticeship.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, particularly with Derwent. And I've only been there with them just over a year now, and most of that time's been working remotely, except for that little bit of a gap we had last year. But I would agree with that. There's certain things which you can do via Zoom and Microsoft Teams, but having that face-to-face round the table conversation with your customers and your stakeholders, you can't replicate that via this link.
No.
You still got to get into the office. And the other thing about that is it's the well-being. I'm lucky where I live in Yorkshire. I've got plenty of open space and this, that, and the other. But lots of people, particularly in Derwent, they live in flats in London. They've had a different environment that they've had to cope with compared to what a lot of people have had. And that getting back to the office is key for people's well-being as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, you get that. Even if your commute is a 10-minute walk, it's the same principle as your hour and a half on the train, isn't it? You can set yourself up and then unwind at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's important.
And I mean, I met up with a friend the other Saturday who lives about a mile away, so I just walked over to him and we had a walk around the park nearby. And he said, it's great being on Zoom calls, but I just wanted to see somebody actually face to face for the first time. And
it's absolutely right. I feel exactly the same. And so we're looking at probably phase 1, like most of the countries, I suppose, 12th of April and sort of beyond, sort of trickle feeding back into town. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing people again. popping by somebody's desk and having a chat, and them sort of things that you miss in terms of the whole workplace sort of environment, you know.
I'm certainly looking forward to getting back into some meetings. I do think for me, you know, what the pandemic has shown me is that I can probably do a bit less traveling than I was doing before.
No, I think everybody can, if they're honest. They can, you know, they can prioritize the work and focus on what's, you know, just think about your workload in a different way, can't you? And certain things you need to be there, and some things you can do it this way, you know. And I suppose the other thing which, you know, Derwent was really proud of what Derwent did over the last year. We didn't have to furlough anybody, you know, which was great. You know, we got laptops out to people, we got the printers, the chairs, you know, to set them up in a really nice sort of, as much as you can, you know, office environment, working from home. So, you know, so that was something to be proud of as well, you know, that what they've done. So
no, absolutely. So earlier on you touched on two phrases. One was health and safety and one was risk or risk management, and you and I had a conversation about this a couple of months ago, I think, and I thought that'd be an interesting topic to talk about. So, you know, what's your view on, you know, risk versus safety? You know, what should we be using and what shouldn't we be using, and how should we be positioning these?
I spoke about this on a podcast or whatever it was called a couple of weeks ago, and one of the many reasons which attracted me to IIRSM, but one of the reasons was really because of the risk element. And I see health and safety as two elements of the whole business risk management, you know, with just two bits of it. And, you know, and if I'm out anywhere, well, when I used to go out to functions and meet people and all these sort of things, when people used to ask me what I did, you know, people that didn't know what I did, I would, well, 9 times out of 10, I wouldn't have said that I worked in health and safety because of that stigma it brings with it. They'll sort of park you up in the corner and, you know, think the bloke with the tweed jacket and arm pads, you know. But
hey, there's nothing wrong with a tweed jacket.
Oh, no, they're into it. You know what I'm saying, and the clipboard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, but if you said you worked in risk management, it's got more of an attractive ring to it.
It perks the ears up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and that's what health and safety is. It's just part of business risk management. Two elements. You know, if you use the analogy of a lawyer or solicitor, once they're qualified, they focus on certain bits. Some might focus on, you know, music law. Some might focus on that law. And I see risk management that you can be a risk professional and then focusing on health and safety as your, you know, area of expertise, for want of a better word. And that's one of the reasons, that the sort of main reasons attracting me to IIRSM, because of that holistic approach on business risk. And you know, whether it's security now or IT or whatever it is, we form part of that. And you know, I'd love the day when I were employing people as risk managers into my team, as opposed to a health and safety advisor or manager or whatever, you know. And I think it'd attract more younger people into our industry if it was badged up a bit differently as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that last point. I think it's a bit like the insurance industry. Actually, you know, safety and insurance are fundamentally important in all sorts of ways, not just the narrow ways that people think they are, because they touch on every aspect of every business. And actually you get huge exposure to all sorts of aspects of business.
Going back a couple of years ago, and we were doing a function with IIRSM, and there's a lady called Anna Keane that I know quite well, and she works for a company called Acre, the recruitment outfit. And they did this survey all around the country, a bit like going out with a clipboard and asking somebody about, do they like Hellman's mayonnaise, you know, but they asked people's perception of what health and safety was. And there wasn't hardly any good positive about it at all. It stopped people doing this. You know, it's a bit like what I said earlier about the clipboard, and they're not enablers, they're blockers. All they want to do is stop things happening. And for me, it's not about that. I mean, health and safety has changed significantly over the last 10 years in terms of how it's integrated into business, and how business see it as a, you know, a real value for the success of the business. You know, by having a business that is, you know, its health and safety performance is there, it's going to invite stakeholders in to support that business because they've got a good health and safety culture. And, you know, PLC companies like Derwent that see it as a, you know, part of their success is having a good health and safety, you know, sort of team, and it's inclusive is key, you know.
Yeah, there's quite a sort of well-known example of a business called Alcoa. I'm sure you've come across this before.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's been written about quite a lot. And I use that as a bit of a shining example about actually, let's be proactive about safety and risk, and let's look at it as an enabler to success, and let's not look at it as a blocker from
No, absolutely. And I think the other thing with health and safety now, I think that the way that it has changed, and we're getting more young people into it, I think the importance of having a diverse, inclusive team is more important than ever. So when you're building a team, I'm sure lots of people do this, but it's having people from different backgrounds and cultures and age. So when you're talking about a particular issue, you've all got a different view on it. So Clive's got the old guy that's been in the business probably too long now, many people will say, but you've got the young people coming in, and from a female perspective or from a different cultural perspective, you add all these things into the mix and you get a more rounded outcome, I think, by doing that. And I think there are a lot more females coming into the health and safety sector, that's for sure. And I think it's a good thing. I really do. Yeah. Because again, they add a different dimension to the health and safety team. So
no, absolutely, yeah. So would you then be an advocate for business? Not every business, of course, you've got to be of a certain size to have all these different functions. But but a business having a risk management director, for example, or a head of risk management as a
well, I think lots of PLC companies have that risk person, but I don't know any business yet. Oh no, maybe I think Unite Students do, where the health and safety team comes into the risk bit as opposed to the other bit. Right. And if I ain't got many years left to working, I don't think, but I've got a few. It'd be nice when I left that we've got it into a different place, I think, Christian. Because it is important, that it's included with all the other business risks, whether it's around terrorism, whether it's around financial, whatever it is. Health and safety is key to the success of businesses, and it's a key business risk that you've got to manage and mitigate against. And I think over the last year, risk management has become more crucial because of COVID and how we've adapted to managing people.
Agreed. Yeah, fully agreed. I think what happens a lot is people don't focus on the positive sides of risk, or they worry too much about the negative sides. And actually what we should be talking about as people in the safety world is, safety enables high performance, which enables staff retention, which enables better results, which enables more profit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And, and when you look at sort of people's abilities, and it's not about, it's being risk aware, not risk averse, and acting responsibly. So there's nothing wrong with taking risk on in any business, as long as you've got the people and the structure and support to manage it. It's not about, you can't do that because that book says you can't do that, or that regulation. It's about, well, I've got my skills and I can manage that risk now. So what I don't want with my team, and I don't get that with my team, is we don't use that cloak of compliance to get things done, Christian. We get things done because the person you're engaging with understands why it's got to be done, not because the working IREG say this or the Quality Act says that. It's around and that's what, for me, health and safety and risk management is about. It's having that dialogue and being a key influencer into that, really. But,
well, look at it this way. If nobody took on any risks, no companies would exist.
Yeah, no, exactly. And if you've got the competent people with you, why not manage the risk? And when we're taking on that risk, if you can.
Yeah.
And don't be scared.
Yeah, I think to me, I've never worked in big companies like you, but my impression as an outsider is that people start off as an entrepreneur in a small business with the positive side of risk, because actually you can't start without risk, and it's all about calculated risk and growth, and then there seems to be some kind of tipping point. I don't know when it is, but some kind of tipping point where all of a sudden it flips and there's that risk aversion rather than embracing a risk.
Yeah, quite. Yeah. I mean, you just look at the whole world of risk now with what we've been going on with COVID, and up until COVID, I mean, terrorism was a big part of every business risk, particularly in London, with all the bombings and the like. And thank goodness nothing's happened since then. But that's sort of, things drop off the agenda if you don't keep them going, you know. But more importantly, these still things are there, and you still got to be prepared for them and not let them fall off the radar, you know.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, people, obviously everybody's been preoccupied with COVID, but we can't forget all these other risks, you know, even from, as you said earlier, setting people up to work from home safely, because, you know, what if you get repetitive strain injuries or manual handling or thing, you know, these things don't go away. It's just that the landscape sort of shifts them slightly.
Yeah. You know, lots of people have adjusted quite well, and you say working from home, but really it's living at work, really, isn't it? When you think about it.
That's how I feel, but that's okay. You know, when it's your own business.
Well, I'm saying, but I think it's so important that when you are working from home, that you do compartmentalize your day and make the effort to get up and go for a walk at lunchtime and get away from these screens and get a bit of fresh air. And because it's easy to get sucked into this sort of world. You've got one Zoom meeting after another Zoom meeting, and they're not healthy, but it's how you manage them to make them effective, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I think for me, you know, having two young kids is a blessing, because actually it means that I can't just sit here and work, because actually my wife and I are trying to juggle, and so I am very much splitting my time up. And so on a Tuesday, for example, I'm with the kids all day, which is great. You know, I don't do any meetings. I don't, you know, I'll sneakily check the iPhone every so often, but try not.
I think it's taught many businesses that you haven't got to be visible to be productive. I think lots of companies have realised that they can trust the people, the work gets done. But as I said earlier, it doesn't take away from the fact that you still need to be in the office for that type of meeting, and keeping that dialogue going with your colleagues. You know, it's a balance, isn't it? It's a fine balance.
No, absolutely.
Get it right.
So you mentioned IIRSM a couple of times. You're the chairman, is that right now?
President, So president. I come to my end of my 2-year stint in December. So really, I've not been able to get about as a president, like the president would do, going out and sort of, you know, banging the drum for IIRSM up and down the country, or over in, you know, other parts of the world, because we are international. Many of our sort of members are out in Dubai and Emirates, all out there, you know, Nigeria and all over the place. So I've not been able to really do what the president's role should have been to do. But you never know, the sort of second half of this year that might sort of come to fruition, really, I suppose.
And for those that haven't heard of it, or have maybe heard of it but don't really know the detail, what you know, tell us a little bit about it. What does it exist to do, really?
So just to answer that question, Christian, about IIRSM, I mean, I've been a member of them for many years, along with IOSH. You know, but over the last 5 to 10 years, I've got more interested and involved in IIRSM and the International Institute of Risk and Safety Management, and I was very fortunate to be asked to be on their council probably six years ago. So I became a council member, which gave me sort of a seat round the table to see what their culture was like, what they're wanting to do, want to achieve, and all this sort of thing. And from that, really, it sort of, I nailed my colours to the mast with them, I suppose, really. And then I was sort of deputy president for a couple of years under Andy Hawkes, who did a great job prior to me setting off. And I took over from Andy last December, and I've got a two-year stint. So December 19, I took over, sorry. So I finished this year. But what IIRSM offers is something quite different in terms of its, you know, support for its members and its regional meetings and its focus areas. And we've just got a different approach to health and safety compared to IOSH, because it's broader, I suppose.
Broader and more focused on risk.
It is. It's focused on that business risk, and as we talked about earlier on, and it is a very. It's not as large as IOSH in terms of its members, but we are quite unique, and there is a place for both in our industry, you know. And you know, I'm just very fortunate to have this time now as the president to try and raise its profile wherever I can, and you know, get different people on board from a client's perspective. But one of the areas that we're really proud of over the last year, we've now got a risk qualification, which has been trialled over the next few months. So we've gone into partnership with IOSH.
Right.
So many people that maybe listening to this have probably heard of the IOSH General Health and Safety Certificate and stuff like that. Well, IOSH have worked in collaboration with IIRSM to develop a risk qualification. So that's been trialled over the next few months, then probably to launch it, mid-year.
Yeah.
The risk qualification. I think that's going to be a massive breakthrough for our members and for people coming into the risk profession, really. And then it'll obviously be recognised by recruitment agencies and the like as well.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea, because I do see, further to what we were saying before, that actually one of the big challenges for health and safety is that perhaps you don't have a budget or as much influence as you merit within a business. And so if you can start coming at it from a broader risk perspective, I think you've got more chance of having more influence, haven't you, getting more stuff done.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, and I think there's IIRSM and there's IOSH, and I've got a call later today, in actual fact, with James Quinn. He's with IOSH. So for me, it's not about them and us. It's about that collaboration, and we're all in it for the same thing, aren't we? At the end of the day, we want people to come to work in a healthy condition and leave in a safe and healthy condition. That's what we want.
Yeah,
make the world a healthier and safer place for us all. So so that's what we want ultimately.
Yeah, fantastic. So if people are interested in that, then how would they go about kind of getting involved as a member or maybe a sponsor?
It's pretty easy. Like most people these days, all you've got to do is type IIRSM into your search engine, and you'll get to the sort of homepage, and you're well directed there to become an initial member, know a lot about what we're doing, our initiatives, our magazine, The Sentinel, which we've launched it probably June last year, maybe a bit earlier, can't remember. I should know, but that's been a real success, the new Sentinel magazine, in terms of how it's sort of perceived by people that's been reading it. So so all the information is on the website, like most of these organisations. But I'd encourage anybody that if they want to broaden their health and safety sort of knowledge and scope, that to look at the IIRSM, because it just adds a broader sort of aspect to your professional skills. No,
absolutely, absolutely. And Andy, who you mentioned, I know as well, who was your predecessor. So he's a big fan, and I think the more types of organisation like this people can get involved with, the more breadth of knowledge and experience they get, and the more good things they can achieve in the world. I mean, we've got our third awards this year. Obviously last year we did it virtually, which but we've got our awards, and they've gone from strength to strength year on year. We're attracting more awards and more people coming to them, and so that risk profile in terms of what we do is it's being raised all the time. Yeah, fantastic. Well, Clive, thanks so much for your time. It's been really great to catch up. If people wanted to follow you or get in touch with you or contact you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just my mobile or my email. I'm not, I'm quite happy to take calls. I'm not, if it's, so it's, if I can give you my details later, Christian. If you want.
I'll stick your email. I won't give people out your mobile number, but I'll
happy by email. I mean, it generally, I like to talk to people, and if I've got no objections if people give me a call. I'd rather talk than email, if I'm honest. But who knows? You could be inundated, then again, I might not get any. But who knows?
I don't need to be inundated with time wasted. Well, I think certainly worth reaching out to Clive to talk about IIRSM for sure, and I'm sure for the audience there'll be a lot of what you've said that's really resonated, and there's a lot more that could be said on that. Topics.
There is lots more, but maybe another time.
Exactly. Great. Well, thanks very much, Clive. Really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Very good.
Good stuff. Thanks, Clive.
Is that all right?
That's great. Yeah.
Good.